Well, thank you for being here this morning. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. But before we get started, a quick question. How many of you are interested in being your own boss? Either owning a creative business or being a freelancer, maybe even owning an agency someday? Okay, it looks like there's quite a few hands. That's good. Well, this presentation is specifically for you. Let me tell you a little bit about myself first. My name is Dale Addy, and for nearly 25 years, I've been an art director and a designer. For a little over 10 years, I've owned a small creative boutique and also been a design educator. And this presentation is part of my MFA thesis through Savannah College of Art and Design. But enough about me. Let's talk more about your new creative business. The thing about business is it's not about things. Business is about relationships. Great work is expected. If you have a happy client, you're going to have a successful, thriving business. A not so happy client means you probably don't have any business at all. And this really is a volatile business. A recent study by the Bedford Group found that in 1985, the average agency client tenure was 7.2 years. By 1997, that had shrunk by 25% to 5.3 years. And today, the average agency client tenure is less than 3 years. I'll tell you, if you're a small business owner, that's terrifying news. Why is this going on? If you own your own business, you'll find that the longer you keep a client, the more money you can make. It's expensive to go cultivate new business. You're always out pitching or doing spec creative. All that is lost time. That's lost money. A recent article from Inc. magazine stated that if you can keep a client for just one additional month, that means a 3% growth to a company's bottom line. Research also shows that it's not all about the work. The creative business is about keeping the client happy. Great creative work will get you clients and attract you clients, but great relationships keeps clients. You might be asking, well, why is this business so volatile? Well, the fact of the matter is that clients have options for their marketing dollars nowadays. They can work with large multinational conglomerates. There's plenty of local and regional heavy hitters. And there's also a lot of independent, successful, highly creative people like yourself. Communication, specifically the internet, has shrank our world, the creative world, and has leveled the playing fields in a lot of ways. It used to be that if you had a local business, you went and you found the local ad agency to do your work. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now a local business can do work with an agency in New York or Dubai or the West Coast or anywhere. It doesn't matter. So in order to help small creative businesses succeed, I've developed what I call proof points, rules of client engagement for the creative professional. As I researched this project, I spoke with 11 different agency folks from 5 different industries. From advertising, I spoke with representatives from GSD&M, VML, and Carmichael Lynch in Minneapolis. On the architecture side, I spoke with Tuck Hinton Architects. On the digital side, I spoke with Snapshot Interactive and Integritas out of Austin, Texas. On the graphic design side, I spoke with representatives from the Sherry Matthews Advocacy Marketing, Willoughby Design, and Steph Geisbuehler from Geisbuehler Design in New York. On the public relations side, I spoke with DVL Siegenthaler here in Nashville, Tennessee, and Weber Shandwick, which is arguably one of the largest PR agencies in the world. But I didn't stop there. I wanted to see if what the agencies were saying is what the clients really wanted to hear. Were the clients buying what they were selling, basically? So I went and I talked with clients from 5 different industries as well. Talked with clients from healthcare, beverages, building products, tourism, and casual dining. Based on these interviews, I developed the proof points, a series of 5 best practices for independent creative professionals. These proof points help the creative professional succeed through the creative development process with their clients. 5 things you can do to enhance your client-agency interaction and make your business stronger. Think strategically. Implement processes. Build chemistry, leverage client expertise, and implement a team model. So let's take a look at those real quick. Think strategically. Every client I interviewed said they use freelance talent, but every client also said that they look to agencies for creative and marketing thinking. Jason Lohr from Brown Forman put it like this: agencies bring more resources to the strategy discussion for sure. I would look to them more than an individual freelancer when it comes to strategy work. Well, the thing is, in the marketing business, it's better to be the thinker than the executor or doer. But in order to get there, The independent creative professional has to think holistically about the client's business. We have to understand how what we're doing fits in the whole mix. We might be able to design a beautiful logo or an ad or a brochure, but if it doesn't fit in what the client has already produced, then I'm sorry, it's off strategy and it doesn't work. So you might be asking, well, how do I do this? Well, there's some basic steps you can do, and then there's some more advanced steps. On the basic side is always ask to see your client's existing material. When you're going to work for a new client, ask to see anything and everything you can get your hands on, to see what typefaces they're using, how do they handle photography, do they use illustration, what their look is, so that you can emulate it and make sure what you do falls in line with that. Also follow their graphic standards. Every client has a graphic standards, and if they don't, they should, and if they don't, you could suggest you doing one for them because they definitely need one. And you need to ask for that up front. Don't simply wait until you walk in with your first presentation with bright, shiny boards and say, yeah, you know what, this is great, but it really doesn't follow our graphic standards. So be proactive and say, hey, let me see your graphic standards to make sure what I'm doing fits. On the advanced side, you need to do some research and find out as much as you can about your client's target audience. Get to know your client's competition almost as well as you know the client. Ask for all this research up front. If the client doesn't have this research, either do it yourself, either through formal research, or just find out who the target audience is and identify those people. Say it's college students, age 18 to 25 that live in the Southeast. Well, you know who those people are, so you go and talk to them and find out what they think, feel, and do, and how they react, and what helps them make their marketing or buying, purchasing decisions. By doing all of that, any insight you can get will help make your product better. And by doing that, you're taking the initiative with that big picture thinking. You prove to the client that you're more than just an order taker, that you're a trusted partner. The next one is implement processes. And I'll admit, processes are the not so fun part of this business. We all want to be doing the flashy creative stuff and doing the illustrations and going out and on photo shoots and all those types of things, but the processes are vitally important. This is kind of the back of the house stuff. The first thing is clear estimates every time. Every job you start, you need to have a clear estimate, and you need to have it signed off by the client. Just having the client say, oh, yeah, it looks great, and over the phone and moving on, I'm sorry, that's not enough. You've got to make sure you have something in writing or an email that says it's approved. That's not just good creative business, that's just good business in general. The next one is creative briefs. Always have a creative brief. If you don't know what a creative brief is, it is a document that spells out all the project parameters. What do we try to accomplish? What do we want to accomplish? Who are we talking to? And most importantly on a creative brief is what defines what success is. If you can define success, then you know what you're shooting for. Say you design a beautiful brochure, you follow the creative brief, everything looks great. You're all done, right? No, you're not. There's more. You have to have the project follow through. And that goes back to the creative brief, where you have to go down, sit back down with your client and say, okay, here's what we created. Was it successful? Was it not successful? And then what did we learn from it for next time? And another thing I would recommend is conducting an annual review with your clients. Stacy Janicki from Carmichael Lynch says, we sit down and do annual reviews with our clients to try and hear what's not working and address that stuff. So why is that important? Well, it's important because by being proactive to meet with your clients to find out what's working and not working, you're cutting off a problem before it becomes a problem. And before somebody can say you're fired because you didn't do this, or you did this, it's a way of showing that you're a team player, that you want to make things better before it becomes a problem. And you can show the client that you're as committed to their business as you are your own. The next proof point is to build chemistry. It was interesting. Every agency I interviewed said that they staff an account based on experience. Say you own an advertising agency and you get a new restaurant client. Well, the first thing you're going to do is go to your staff and find out who has restaurant experience. And then that person most likely is going to service that account. But the funny thing was that the clients I talked to, they didn't care about that. They said that trust and likability was much more important than experience. They felt like the industry could be learned, but if they don't like you, then it doesn't help. Roy Vaughn of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee put it like this. You want to be able to size up who you have with you, knowing that you can count on that person. Can you trust them? Well, as an independent creative professional, you don't have a staff to choose from. So you have to work extremely hard to build that chemistry yourself. Well, how, you might ask? Well, there's a few little things you can do. The first thing is involve the client early and often in the creative development process. Give them an opportunity to help mold the idea. Maureen Berry from GSD&M has what she calls coffee talks with her clients. Before there's big shiny boards to look at and everybody's in suit and ties in boardrooms. This is small, intimate conversations. You and I sitting across the table from each other saying, you know, we're thinking about this. And the client can say, hey, that's great. Maybe we could do this too to add to it. Or the client might say, you know what, that could work, but we've tried something like that in the past and we've had these issues. So by getting that buy-in early, you're cutting off any potential problems, and you're also building an advocate for you as that work develops down the line to help sell it to her boss or whoever's boss up down the road. Show rough sketches. Again, this is something that most creative people don't like to do. Nelson Eddy from DVL Siegenthaler says the rougher the better when you're showing initial concept work. The less the client has to decide on, the better. When it comes, you don't want them to be caught up in that typeface or that model that you use in that photo or those colors. You want them to focus on what the idea is only and get by off on that. Then after that, everything else is window dressing. You kind of build from there. The last thing is to build a team approach where you value your client's input. The worst thing you can do is set up an us versus them mentality. It has to be agency versus client. It has to be a team approach where you're both working together towards the same goal. By doing that, you show your clients that you're involved and that you want them to be part of the process, and it makes for a happier client. Steph Geisbuehler from Geisbuehler Design put it like this: personality and chemistry are most important. If they don't like you or your approach, method, sense of humor, looks, presentation, accent, you won't succeed in working for them. The next proof point is leverage client expertise. I've been guilty of this myself, but sometimes as creative people, we feel like we know best when it comes to advertising and marketing and design. We're supposed to be telling the client how to do their work. They're not supposed to be telling us. But the fact of the matter is, clients know their business better than we ever could. Clients live it every single day. They have knowledge of their products that we as designers could never have. They know their product mix. They know upcoming initiatives. They know what they've done in the past. We don't necessarily have all that information. And all that can help us build a better product for them. Nelson Eddy of DVL Siegenthaler says, we want to know as much about the industry, we want to know as much about the audience as possible. So one of the sources of that information, of course, is the client. So let's face it, in order to be effective communicators, we have to use every tool possible, and one of the best resources we have is our clients. The last proof point is to implement a team model. And this goes back around to that thinking strategically. As an independent creative person, you're probably thinking, I could never go up against a big shop and have a chance to succeed. You might think, I'm too small or I don't have the right expertise. But I'm here to tell you that sometimes your size can be an advantage. The digital age has allowed for a best-of-breed mentality. You can build teams of experts from anywhere around the globe. If you have a client that needs a certain product, you can go out and hire a writer from Canada or a producer from LA or an editor from Australia. It doesn't matter. You can all come together and work on that client. An agency can't necessarily do that. If an agency goes outside of their walls, they're losing money. So they're going to avoid that. But you as an independent person, you have to build your team. So why not build the best you can for your client? Rex Petit of Sherry Matthews Advocacy Marketing puts it like this: being able to work remotely is the greatest thing in the world. It's that collaboration of all these best-of-breeds talents that comes together, and it just happens to be in the ether. Now, I will give you a word of warning on working remotely in the digital age. Just because we work remotely and with people all over the world doesn't mean we can simply sit behind our computer and Skype and work all day. We have got to get out from there and meet with our clients. This business always has been and always will be about relationships. And the best way to foster those relationships is face-to-face. Paulo Vieira of Integritas put it like this: you can't shake someone's hand over Skype. And that's a very important point. So to wrap things up, remember the 5 proof points for client engagement for creative professionals. 1, think strategically. 2, implement processes. Build chemistry, leverage client expertise, and implement a team model. These 5 proof points will lead to a happier client and a better business for you. So remember, small can be powerful. Thanks for your time.